study between an exporter and buyer, then a panel, and then a third case or a second case study at the end between a buyer and seller have made a deal between a South African buyer and an African exporter. So yeah, please continue, George, and we go from there.
Thanks very much, Rex, and good afternoon, colleagues. I am very glad to be joining you on this very important webinar. I hope you can hear me clearly, and please forgive me for the background noise. I'm on the road. So my role today is, as has been in the past, which is just to welcome everybody and just quickly highlight what the USAID Southern Africa Trade Investment Hub does, just for those that are joining us for the first time. For those that have heard the story before, please forgive me for telling you again. So we are a USAID funded project, which is a 6-year project, which started in 2016 October. Our year starts in October and ends in September. So the project is due to end in September this year. So we left with a little over 4 or 5 months before the project comes to an end. And hence the importance of establishing this relationship with Catalyze and making sure that we can hand you over in terms of the activities that we've been running to an entity that is going to be there even after the project has come to an end. So that's one of the reasons why we work closely with Catalyze or maybe organizations such as Catalyze. So over the 6 years, what is it that has been our mandate as the USAID Southern Africa Trade and Investment Hub? We have 3 main objectives. The first one is actually to assist firms from the region, from the 9 countries working. In fact, in this case, 8, because we'll be directing traffic to South Africa. So from the 8 countries we work in, and the 8 countries are Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Namibia, Malawi, Mozambique, and Zambia. We work with firms in those 8 countries to identify markets in South Africa, which is one of the roles that our partner, Catalyze, will be working with us on. So we identify firms that do have a need for a market in South Africa, and we will then identify potential market or buyers in South Africa and link those up. So the purpose of this meeting is also around the same area. That's our first objective. The second objective is where there is need for funding or technology transfer. We assist in identifying those that would need that assistance in terms of funding or technology transfer. And then from the region, the 8 countries I mentioned, and then we identify potential entities or funders in South Africa that will be looking at extending their footprint into the region, and then link up those firms to do business in terms of finding ways of working together as those that will be looking for to provide funding and those that will be looking for funding. That's our second objective. Our third objective looks at all the 9 countries that we work in, and we try and assist firms that will be looking for a market in the US under the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, to do the same work that we do in the region, which is identifying a market or those that will be looking for products from the region, and then link those that have potential to supply those products with the buyers. Again, another area where Catalyze is actually working with us on. So looking at those three objectives, you can see the importance of today's webinar. And we would want you to make sure that you take advantage of this webinar to get all the information that you might require. And that said, I don't want to take too much time. I just thought I needed to highlight what our role is and where we have been and where we're going before I hand over back to Rex here to actually then go into the business of the day. And Rex, over to you. Before I actually sign off, I want to wish everybody a very fruitful discussions. And hopefully we're going to leave here more informed than when we joined. Rex, over to you.
Thank you very much, George, for your time today. Yeah, we're obviously looking forward to this whole program that we've been running for the last few months already. So thanks for the introduction. So just to quickly run through what we are going to be doing today. Again, formally, George has introduced himself. We will be going next into a case study with Kondo Anacardium and Manalis Crunchies. So they were two companies that we worked with last year. Kondo is a cashew company and grower and producer from Mozambique, and Manalis Crunchies is a snack producer in South Africa. And they landed a deal last year. So we'll go through that. Then we'll go into a panel discussion between various exporters and buyers. So some South African exporter manufacturers, some African exporters, logistics companies, and a distributor called Soaring Free Superfoods. And then we'll go into that case study between Tineta and Hey Gorgeous. Tineta is a manufacturer of marula oil, and Hey Gorgeous is a cosmetics manufacturer in South Africa, and they landed an agreement last year and looking to do a lot more business together over the coming year. And then we'll do a couple of Q&As afterwards. So please feel free to add some questions into the chats and let us know how we can sort of demystify any questions you have in the process. We'll take those Q&As at the end, and then we'll finish off with Kos at the end with a closing remarks of the program and some insight into other projects that are happening and programs that the USAID Trade Hub are leading to different markets. So I'd like to just call on Gonzalo and Mario, if you can just turn your cameras on. And we'll take it from there to start the discussion on the first case study.
Hi, Rex.
Hi, Mario. How are you doing? And Gonzalo, lovely to see you guys.
Yep.
Great, awesome. So, as to start this all off, Gonzalo and Mario were one of the key deals that came through Engage Trade Africa last year. It was a very exciting opportunity. Just to quickly outline, Gonzalo is from Kondo Anacardium. They are the largest exporter and producer of cashew nuts in Mozambique. 90 or more percent, nearly 99%, I think, gets exported around the world. And obviously a massive opportunity for South Africa. Obviously the high prices that you guys are getting in from Europe and stuff make it very key markets for you out there. So South Africa is a market where you're wanting to get into. And then just Mario, as I said, from Manalis Crunchies, they're a massive producer in South Africa and supplying loads and loads of stores around the country, and always looking for new produce to get from them. So I'm going to hand over to Gonzalo, just to do a better introduction than I can of your company, a quick 1 minute, and then over to you, Mario, and then we'll just delve into how this deal developed. Go for it, Gonzalo.
Sure. Thank you, Rex. Yes, glad to be here. My name is Gonzalo, as I've been introduced. I represent Kondo Anacardium, which is one of 3 factories owned by a company called Condor here in Mozambique. This particular factory that we're talking about is in Macia, Gaza, so in the crossing to Bilan, which is actually quite a well-known place within the South African community, roughly 1.5 hours away from Maputo, so close to the South African border as well. Our business is processing, so we make a clear distinction between producing and processing. Producing is everything that happens at a field level. So we're processors, meaning that we aggregate raw cashew nuts from the smallholder farmers. 99.9% of our suppliers are smallholders. We do the aggregation of this raw cashew nut, then we bring it to our factory. We do a calibration, a cutting, a peeling, and then a sorting into different grades. Actually, more than 30 different grades between large whole nuts and smaller whole nuts and broken pieces, smaller broken pieces. So there is a very unique standardization to our industry, which is kind of common, across all the countries. And then we export, as you said, around 99% is for export. So we have very little sales in country. And our main market is actually Norway, Germany, Portugal as well. And now since last year, which is, kind of strange that we didn't have a lot of South African clients, we started to sell obviously to Manalis Crunchies and other South African clients actually introduced by you guys as well. So that's it from my side. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Kanjala. And Mario, can you just do a quick introduction on Manalis Crunchies and yourself?
Yeah, hi there. My name's Mario. We've got a family business in Durban, South Africa. One of our products is nuts. We do a vast range between nuts, dry fruits, seeds, sweets, and we mainly packers, and we do our own roasting of our products. We've got 6 of our own retail stores in Durban, KZN, and we supply most of the major retailers in KZN and other parts of South Africa. Also dealing with our own wholesale side into our retail stores and into other retail outlets. So that's just a breakdown of what we do. We've been around for 20 years. The brand is Manalis Crunchies, and yeah, like I said, it's not just cashews that we deal with. There's a vast majority and vast range that we go through. So we're always looking for new products to bring in, and that's where the connection between myself and Gonzalo happened at the end of last year, where Rex and Catalyze introduced us, and we got involved in that. The importing side of things is quite a new venture for us, since only started happening in the past year. Usually we would have been buying from local importers here in Durban, but have expanded that ourselves, and that's how we started the process and starting to import a few products. Yeah.
Awesome. Brilliant. Thanks, Mario. So, look, we had yourself and Gonzalo and I had a good chat about the opportunity and how it evolves. So, I mean, from your side, I mean, what was the deciding factor of you putting in a new supplier? Because obviously you guys are getting product from other places. I mean, what makes you take that next step in the process?
Yeah, I think, Rex, a big thing with sourcing a new product is price, and of course quality. And I mean, it's incredibly hard to know what the quality of a product is going to be when you haven't purchased from that company before. We've been buying our cashews from the same supplier for nearly 4 years now. So it was obviously a risk, and first things first with any introductions, to get a sample in. We were happy initially with the samples. Unfortunately, Mozambique is not too far from us. So getting those sorts of things done is not incredibly difficult. I also happen to, as mentioned before, have a friend that does quite a bit of business in Mozambique. So he was accustomed to the company and knew Gonzalo and their processing plant there. So, you know, that was obviously a big help in getting that across the line, because of course, you know, dealing with any new imports, and especially for a company like mine that has only started doing that, was quite a big risk, and was something that we needed to get over the line. But thankfully everything worked out fine, and we were happy with the products, and we got our first order.
Awesome. And Gonzalo, from your side, I mean, what kind of documents and mechanisms do you guys use to convince someone like Mario that you guys are a reputable supplier and the right people to work with?
Yeah, well, I think that before going into, you know, the documentation process, which is actually, you know, very important, but it's a pro forma, so it's quite standardized for us because, as I said, we're used to exports. I think that a big factor for this is also trust, you know, and I don't want to be putting things on Mario's mouth, but if I would be on the other side, you know, to source something that it's quite a sizable, you know, order from a country such as Mozambique, the trust needs to be there because, as you know, he was just stating, it's impossible to foresee the quality, if it's going to arrive, if it's not going to arrive. So a certain amount of trust in between us was required, even because of the timing of the payments, so on and so forth. And it kind of definitely helps, you know, to build up this confidence. And this is done obviously through you. We obviously thought that, you know, Catalyze would do some kind of homework to sanity check if Manalis would be a trustworthy company, as you did for us as well. It did help obviously, you know, to have a common friend, so we kind of knew each other. I always went to the website to try to understand, you know, what was the reach of the company. And then, you know, you start talking and negotiating. That's how things went through. In terms of documentation, you know, specifically from Mozambique to South Africa, it's actually not too demanding because it's all part of SADC. So in terms of duties inside to South Africa, we don't have to pay any duties, or the customer in this case doesn't have to pay any duties. He obviously just needs to pay VAT because he's then going to be selling, you know, even if it's retail or wholesale, if it's within South Africa, the VAT needs to be paid on top of that. Generally speaking, with all our processes for exports, we have the bill of lading. On this case, there was no bill of lading because this was a road transport, but you have the transport documentation. Then you have a traceability certificate that says where does the raw cashew came from. You have a certificate of analysis where we do a bunch of different analyses, from salmonella to peroxide value to free fatty acids, aflatoxins, and, you know, a bunch of different things. So that's pretty standard for the industry as well. A packing list, a weight certificate, and the gas-free certificate. So those are and an origin certificate as well. So it's something that says that effectively this product was originated in Mozambique and it was not, you know, imported from somewhere else and then sold as Mozambican product. So as I said, that's kind of standard. I mean, we already have the machine up and running, so it was just replicating that. And you know, there were some, I wouldn't call it challenges, but it was something different for us as well, because we've sold virtually nothing to South Africa prior to this. You know, whenever so all the exports that we do is actually through the ports, so through you know, ships, and things are slower. So you have more time to take care of the PL and the documentation. You know, to South Africa is actually quite different because you get the truck to the border and then you have a couple of hours that the truck needs to be stationed, and that's obviously a cost, while everything must happen, you know, then, right? So I think, you know, it was important to ensure that there was good communication, and WhatsApp helped a lot with Mario, you know, to be able to kind of try to get the VAT paid from their side, you know, and make everything work in record time to see if we wouldn't get held up in the border.
Yeah, I think Gonzalo pretty much hit the nail on the head there.
So, Gonzalo, I mean, you guys obviously sell a huge amount of stuff over to Europe. Is there a hesitation to sending stuff into South Africa? I know, I'm sure Mario and a couple of other guys are very eager to buy more from you, but you guys have limited stock because Europe is so keen on buying from you guys. But is there any hesitation, or is it a price point thing, or is it something like that?
No, not at all. I mean, to be honest, if I would have to point out two things, about South Africa would be, or three things. The first is lack of a better idea. Since we were already, as you're saying, selling to Europe, we had this on the back of our heads, but it was not easy to get to know the right people. We had, different attempts from different traders before, but we never established a relationship as we did with Marriott, with whom now I have his WhatsApp and we chat over email. And as you say, unfortunately, it's been much more on my side, not pushing through more sales. Not because we don't want to, obviously, but because we bought less raw cashew nut this year than we were expecting. It's just agriculture. So although we do processing, we're always dependent on the weather, and it's difficult to kind of tune that. But the South African market is an attractive market. I was saying there are three things. First, for lack of a better idea, the second one is actually trust. That takes some time to be established, to make sure that once the goods get there, then there's not going to be claims or claims that do not have the reason to be. Just to try to ask for a discount or delay in payments or whatever. So that's a very important thing. And then the third thing is, obviously we're primary processors, so we're much more focused on wholesale than retail. So we don't do any kind of retail sales. So there needs to be a minimum order quantity to kind of make it interesting. Generally speaking, for export for us, we only do a 20-foot container. So that's kind of like the less that we do to make the best use out of space. But, South Africa is a bit different because, you can send a truck, a 12-ton truck. And that's what we've been, more trying to do, is to do half loads, which on the one hand, being a smaller market also helps the treasury of our clients. They don't need to put it in so much capital at once, And on the other hand, for us, it's also not too difficult to manage that because it's still efficient to send it on 12-ton trucks rather than, the 30 tons or the big containers that we usually sell for exports.
Okay, cool.
So again, it's an interesting market, yeah.
Mario, from your side, where else are you sourcing cashews from in comparison to somewhere like Mozambique?
Well, we deal with another big importer and quite a big cashew company in Africa. They're based in Johannesburg, but they essentially land the cashews for us here in Durban. I don't know, majority of their stock comes in from Africa, Mozambique, etc., and North Africa. So look, I've got a preference for African cashews at least. I believe they are the best quality. We've sourced from India before and Vietnam, and we much prefer the African cashew. So right now, my two sources, and as I said earlier, our previous supplier we've been dealing with for the past 4 years, they've just been landing a local importer that just landed the stock at our door for us. So there wasn't direct importing there.
And do you think has it been a good experience to go direct? Has it been more cost effective for you as well?
Well, of course. That's the biggest thing at the end of the day. Are you helping your bottom line, and are you bringing in the product at a better price than you were before? It's always tough when it comes to food items. Do you want to go cheaper, and does that cheaper always necessarily mean that you're going to be getting the same quality? So for my previous supplier and who I've been using for the past 4 years, never had any issues with the stocks. There was no reason for me particularly to ever change, even if I was getting it at a better price, because I'd had some bad experiences before that supplier. But yeah, that's I think first and foremost is price and the quality of the product. That's all you can really ask for.
Okay. And Gojalo, just give us an idea of sort of how much communication is needed for something like this to land for you. I mean, how much back and forth emails, just to give people an idea of how much work they have to put into something like this.
Well, it's difficult to quantify. It really depends on your gut feeling, obviously, as well. Specifically with Mario, as I said, we had a common acquaintance, so that kind of helped. I'm not going to say that it did not help. And we were also flexible because I understand what Mario just said, like switching from a supplier that we actually know and it's a good quality supplier as well, and changing to someone that you don't know, it's a big risk. We're talking about, over $50,000 in one single order. So, the risk of Mario getting the kernel to his doorstep and then not being whatever it is, and then having to send it back, but without knowing if we were, good and worthy for it, if we were taken back, there was some flexibility from our side, meaning giving him some time to think, and then analyzing the product as well, and then eventually, developing a system that we would be both safe in case the expectations from any side did not match. So again, it's difficult to quantify. It really depends on the references and how much we know from the company. But I think that once you get this up and running, the direct imports, it's not too difficult. I mean, I can even explain a night out that it's different from other African countries. Basically, we take care of everything. The transport in this particular deal was hired by myself. So we gave the price at door gate, at factory gate of Manalis Crunchies in Pinetown. And the only thing that needs to be paid in rands in South Africa is the VAT. So the way it works is that we do the whole export as if it would be going to Europe. And then when we get to the Komati port border to South Africa, our customs clearance agent, together with the South African customer clearance agent, he generates a number, and that number, gets introduced. And Mario, correct me if I'm wrong. We provide this number, which is a unique ID code to Mario, that he can go online and pay the VAT over the goods that that number is referred to, right? So as soon as the VAT is paid, then all is liberated because there is nothing else to pay. And that avoids us as well, having to change rands and to export money out of the country in meticais to pay the VAT in South Africa, right? Which is a big hassle for us. So this was a way of combining, two things together. And as long as there is good communication, if there are no delays, in paying the VAT, then it's almost as this other import that he was getting from this Johannesburg company, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe you can elaborate a bit, Mario, in this. Yeah. Do you remember that number of the VAT that we gave you?
No, I can't remember offhand, Gonzalo, I must be honest. I think, Gonzalo, a big reason why I ended up also doing this, besides, I do think communication and Zoom calls and WhatsApp calls are integral into getting these things over the line. There's somewhat of that trust, having someone on WhatsApp and who you're dealing with. But a big thing for us getting this over the line is that you're prepared to deliver the stock to my door without prepayments. And for me, that was a huge risk for you. But at the end of the day, it got us the stock, and it got the relationship going. We paid for the stock when it arrived. They even gave me a grace of a week, which I'm assuming you wouldn't give to many people.
Yes, that's
probably
correct.
Yeah, and probably not to people exporting to Europe, etc. So yeah, the process was seamless in that regard.
We do have to wrap up, guys, and thanks for your time. But Mario, just one last question for you. Are there other products that you are currently looking for from Africa, or that you want to fulfill in your manufacturing?
Well, to be honest, I'm looking for anything we can pack and put into our stores that the market here in South Africa is looking for. Like I said, we do nuts, seeds, dried fruit, flowers. But the health food section and market is continuously growing and changing. So it's whatever products are in demand, and that's what we're looking for, I guess. It's not just we started off selling peanuts 20 years ago, that range is extended to over 150 different lines now. So, yeah.
Great. Okay, then, and then just lastly from you, Gonzalo, and thanks for your input. Any words of wisdom and tricks up your sleeve, or something that you can leave for people, how to make these deals go through quicker, other than giving them an amazing payment grace? But is there anything else that you can advise?
Yeah. No, I would say, you know, get your documents straight. I mean, that sounds like an obvious thing, but I think that once you kind of develop this package of the documents, and you understand the mindset and the speed that you need to present them, then, you know, it starts to be a no-brainer. So it's not very difficult, to be honest. You just need to find the right you know, suppliers for all these different documents. So the lab for the certificate of analysis, and, you know, the company that does the weighing of the boxes, so on and so forth. And that's, you know, once that's streamlined, then it's quite easy to you know, to just get it going. So yeah, don't my say would be, don't overlook the admin part of all of this, because that's also important.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for both your times. We're going to move on to the next section now. And yeah, looking forward to more business coming from you guys in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so much.
So next up, we have a panel with various South African exporters as well, and South African manufacturers. And then a logistics expert to give us some insight, and a distributor called Soaring Free Superfruits, who's going to also give us insight into what they're expecting from companies. This is all going to be moderated by Frances, and she works with the USA Trade Hub, and to give us some insight into what it's coming out of these markets, and what these suppliers and buyers and manufacturers are all looking for, and pull really good information from them. If Jaco, Lara, Ruan, and Callan, if you could please join us on the screen, that would be great. And Mara, you can jump off. Hi, Lara. Hi, Ruan.
How's it, Rex?
Hi, Rex.
Okay. So,
Hi.
Okay, great.
Hi, Rex.
Awesome. Cool. So I'm going to hand over to you, Frances, to start this off, and then take it from there.
Super. Thank you, Rex. Thank you, everyone. I think the scene has been well set for us already. Thank you to Mario and Gonzalo for a really interesting case study that I think touches on a lot of elements that we see as challenges and issues that exporters and importers face. So really great fodder. I'm really excited about moderating today, just because I think we often get feedback from the firms we work with around the fact that learning from peers that have had practical experience is the most useful. If somebody's been through the process of importing or exporting, and they've had those hard lessons, that's really the best way to learn, if not through your own hard earned scars. So thank you very much, Lara, Callan, Jaco, and Ruan, for agreeing to share your experiences with everyone. What I'd like to do is just maybe ask each of you to introduce yourselves. The whole session that we are discussing today is about what are the requirements when you want to work with South African buyers or into the South African market. So from different perspectives, we've got 4 great panelists here and very willing ears that are hoping to learn from you. So if we could jump to the next slide, and starting off with Jaco. Jaco is based out of Mozambique. He started AfriFruiter in 2015. He literally built the factory, including the drying facilities. They export dried fruit and coconut, processed coconut products in different forms. So Jaco is our first panelist. Rex, I think you're in charge of the slides. Please, can you move to the next one? Thank you so much. Then our next speaker after Jaco is Lara, and Lara is a very passionate individual who some of you may have heard speak before. She is the managing director of Rush Nutrition, and Rush is really passionate about supplying food into the market that is healthy, holistic, and that really promotes optimal health for consumers. Our third panelist comes from quite a different perspective. That's Ruan King from King Cargo, and he brings almost 2 decades of experience in logistics. So some of the stuff that Kunjalo touched on in terms of the documentation and how do you send samples and how do you send product is something that Ruan will talk to, and just some of the critical things that you need to know if you're going to be importing into South Africa. And then our fourth panelist is Callan Wolf from Soaring Free Superfoods. Soaring Free focuses on superfoods and distributing superfoods, and they really import and aggregate supplies from different suppliers and provide those to food manufacturers and processors. And they have a very strong focus on ensuring the quality of those food sources. If not organic certified, they need to be natural, and there's some really strong controls around that. So we'll learn a bit more about Soaring Free Superfoods in terms of their supply chain and how they manage all of that. So with that, Jaco, if I could maybe ask you to kick us off with a few opening remarks, just to introduce yourself a bit more fully and to talk to your experience about working with the South African market in terms of dried fruits and coconut products. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yeah, well, a couple of things. Firstly, it's any company starting up with is always a challenge getting your foot in the door. It's important that you know firstly your product and that you also know your market in that for that sense. We've specifically looked at knowing that we are in a third world country with difficult and bureaucracy in the border process as well. We've looked at the product like dried fruits because we knew it would be able to pass through a border process where there would be difficulties. That to have a truck standing at the border for 1 or 2 days, up to 3 days, is not an uncommon thing to happen. So that's something that we've made a conscious decision to proceed this kind of product because we know of where we are, that we would be susceptible to border crossings and problems with that. It's been a challenge. South Africa is a well-established market segment in that sense. So it's difficult to get access to new markets in South Africa because most companies already got suppliers, whether it's importers or middlemen or whatever. So it's difficult to bring in an existing line into South African market. If you bring in a new kind of product, we've experienced it to be easier in the one sense, but also difficult because then you have to do market development yourself a lot. So there's always challenges coming into a new country or into a new market because you somebody know, as the previous speakers have said, there have to be a bit of trust being built and things have to pick up. Also, being in a country like Mozambique, it's a challenge because you have to store stock, whether it's packaging material, whether it's labels, whether it's whatever you can think of. You have to be able to store enough stock. Going into the retail market in South Africa, obviously those guys expect that you pack in some of their packaging. So all the packaging material, you're looking at quantities of anything from 100,000 to 200,000 units. With quite a significant cost allocated to something like that. So you have to be able to have the budget to carry stock like this for a year or 2 years, depending on the volume that you're moving. So that's always a challenge as a young and a smaller type of company coming into a market in South Africa. Then again, there's another. If you're looking at the health stores and the smaller kind of setups, they don't move big quantities. As the previous speakers have also spoken about, logistic is always a challenge. So you have to rent a truck that you're paying for the whole truck, but you're only sending a pallet or half a pallet quantity of stuff. So that makes things difficult. So logistics is also a major impact that you have to be able to consider to know what you would be able to do and what you can do and can't do. But in general, South Africa for the SADC countries is a good source, a good market access. It's easy to get into if you are SADC registered. You have to know the law, the border laws. You have to know if you've got fresh produce or even dry produce, what the phytosanitary regulations are. So it's important to work with your potential buyer firstly. I mean, you can't import into South Africa if they are not registered as an importer for that specific crop with the Department of Agriculture. I'm coming from an agricultural background, so I'll focus more on the agricultural produce in that sense. Also, you need to know what the regulations are for the specific crops and the specific countries. Each country got a different regulation. Certain countries will not be able to ship certain agricultural produce to South Africa because of phytosanitary regulations. So those are kind of things that you need to know well in advance. Second, well, another thing also is if your buyer would be able to qualify for that. We've looked at something like achar in the past to produce, but it was extremely difficult. None of our buyers could qualify for the regulations on the South African side to be able to receive it. So at the end of the day, we couldn't export something like achar to South Africa because of these regulations. So it's important to know what you can and can't do. There are certain things that you just won't be able to export to a country like South Africa for good reasons as well. And then another thing is obviously with your logistics part, as I've said before, exporting something like fresh salads or something from Malawi or by truck to South Africa will not work. If there's a delay at the border, obviously you're going to end up with major losses and things. So also know what your shelf life, what the time span of your produce will be. And again, things like fresh agricultural produce, fruits and vegetables and things also got a shelf life. So those kind of things you have to keep in mind. If your shipping will take you 2 to 3 days to reach South Africa, obviously it's going to disqualify you. Most supermarket chains got a 5 or 7 day shelf life period. So already you've lost half of your shelf life in something like that. So it's important, know your produce, know what you can do, what you can't do. But in general, South Africa is a big market. There's a lot of people. It's got good buying power. So it's definitely an advantage to supply into South Africa if you can do it, and if you've got a good relationship with your buyer on the other side as well.
Well, thanks, Jaco. I think you've touched on so many relevant topics in terms of the perishability of products, choosing your product, making sure it meets regulation, packaging, cash flow. I mean, there's just so much rich information there that you've touched on. So thank you for highlighting that. Just participants, please, if you've got questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will open up for Q&A as soon as all the panelists have made opening remarks. So please feel free to start posing questions in the chat. Lara, I'm going to come to you next. If you could also just open up and just talk a bit more about Rush Nutrition and your experiences around importing from the region and what you're looking for and what's really important for you when you consider taking on a new supplier. Thanks.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Francis. So yeah, I think a very valuable discussion. So we at Rush, actually how we differentiate ourselves in the market and in the manufacturing of snacks and beverages is that we focus very much on functional African botanicals and superfoods. So sourcing African ingredients, superfoods and botanicals is at the forefront of everything we want to be doing. I think the reality is that there are a lot of challenges, and I'll get into that shortly. Maybe also just to state that we also contract manufacture, so we don't just manufacture under Rush Nutrition, we manufacture for a number of retailers. There's a big shift towards healthy snacking, healthy functional beverages, plant-based, vegan, clean label. So that's the space that we play in. And that in itself brings a lot of challenges when you are then sourcing ingredients. So I think just off the bat, we would say certifications from suppliers are really important. So like with Callan at Superfoods, we not necessarily looking for organic, but we do need all natural. Our products have to be halal and kosher certified, so the ingredient sources need to be halal and kosher certified, or at least a process in place to get there. I think what's also quite important, and I mentioned earlier, we are clean label. So while our facility contains tree nuts, we don't have peanuts, soy, dairy, wheat, gluten. So there can't be any cross-contamination in the ingredients that we're sourcing, which is also a consideration. And then we supply all the major retailers. So they've got very stringent food safety requirements, and we get audited by Intra against them. And so again, there's just a lot of documentation that suppliers would need, or not a lot. I mean, we'd need your certificates of acceptability, just to show more specifications around the products, the batch codes, those types of paperwork. And then maybe just getting into the challenges too. So a lot of our manufacturing is just in time. So we get orders in and we forecast for a week or 2 weeks out, and we manufacture to those orders, which means that any delays at borders is a big problem. So that's the one big concern for us, so lead times. And then when it does come to pricing and minimum order quantities, I think that too, we are able to source all of our ingredients, except for, I think in dates at the moment, which we hopefully through costs that USAID will get from Namibia. We are getting everything locally from South Africa. But we would love to be able to actually just further that net a little bit more. But the concerns are the pricing, and then what are the resultant travel or transport costs to get the product down to us in Cape Town. That's where we're based. So not so simple as Mario getting it from Mozambique. And payment terms, then Mario also mentioned that. So that is also just a consideration for us. The trade terms with retailers in South Africa, I'm not sure if people are aware, but they are not always lenient. So we are anywhere from 15 days to 90 days from statement with our retailers. So that's just also needs to be factored into sourcing ingredients. Yeah, and I think, I mean, we've been working a little bit with Rex and the team looking at engaging with African suppliers. I think, and it's been amazing for us, because I think the one big challenge is actually finding the suppliers. We even locally, I mean, we're looking now for pomegranate arrows, and you would think that we'd be able to pull up a whole directory full of suppliers, but we are battling to even find one at this point who has stock. So we always are needing just backups and additional supply. And I think, yeah, I think for us too, the reality is in South Africa, between 20 to 50% of post-harvest produce goes to waste in this country. So there is quite a lot of supply here already. Where we would like to play a little bit differently is further into Africa. What are the amazing functional botanicals and superfoods that people don't necessarily know about, that are shelf stable? So either we can juice them, or they can be dried, that we can then incorporate in our products, add value locally. And we've got some really nice contacts into the US, Canada, and Dubai now, which is really exciting for us. And we're hoping to grow those markets too, which is great. So yeah, I think that is all from us. If there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Laura. I think what stands out for me now is that every business that's on this call has different pressures, whether it's cash flow, whether it's time, whether it's minimum order quantities. You've got, it's all a balancing act, and you've got to enter into that balancing act with your suppliers, and see what's most important to you and what's important to them, and try and find a match in the midst of that. And I think the other thing is clearly, if there are interesting, innovative African indigenous ingredients out there that can help you to put something new on the shelf, you're keen to hear about that. So I know that there are some of those suppliers in this call. Please text, guys. I'm still waiting for questions on the chat. Please don't leave me hanging when we get to the Q&A session. Thanks, Laura. I know that you also came out of this as a mom and as somebody who's passionate about ensuring healthy families and just healthiness holistically. And so it's really nice to hear your story and just the fact where you've gotten to in your business. So well done, and thanks for sharing.
No, thank you.
Great. I'm sure there are going to be questions for you. Callan, I'm going to move to you next. I know that you are a supplier to Rush Nutrition. So you help to source some of the different products that Rush needs and meet those requirements in terms of just in time and minimum order quantities that are not necessarily huge always because they're quite specific products. It would be really nice to hear from you in terms of you're kind of possibly in the middle quite a lot in terms of trying to meet somebody like Rush Nutrition's needs and many others, but also working closely with suppliers to ensure that that supply chain is, on point. So please share your experience with us, and we all ears. Thanks.
Sure. So yeah, it's just my name's Callan. Obviously, Soaring Free Superfoods was established around 2006, and yeah, it basically brought superfoods to South Africa. It wasn't really a thing at that time, and now other players have entered the market, and the whole industry has grown. And our main focus is, we've got quite a few avenues. So we do wholesale, and bulk for manufacturers. We do retail via our website. We do distribution for other brands, and we do education, via several platforms. So we kind of spread quite wide with regards to. So what we do a lot is actually, we do grow our own product base. Customer base. And we have a lot of loyal customers who. We can do our own market development. That's one of our strengths, is actually being able to communicate directly to our customers. So if there's a new product or something, like Laura had said, like trying to source interesting superfoods, that's something that's crucial for us because we've got the ability to actually communicate its benefits and grow the product. So yeah, that's our main focus though with regards to sourcing in products is basically it's getting in the cleanest and the purest, closest to nature products. So less preservatives, no preservatives actually. And we obviously are organic certified, which encompasses a couple of factors, which is that a product must be non-irradiated. It must be non-GMO, so no genetic modification, and pesticide free and fully traceable. So those are kind of, prerequisites for us before sourcing anything. If a product is not organically certified, then we still consider it based on other factors. So we would then do our own independent analysis on pesticides, usually a pesticide analysis on a sample beforehand, and then testing it once it comes in as well. This is a concern as well, even with organic products. When they're coming from somewhere like China, we'll test also again. Because we've had experiences where products are certified, but there's obviously issues with cross-contamination and maybe corruption in the industry. So we have to take extra care to test products. I think that's our main thing. The challenges that we have often, sourcing products from Africa is things that have been touched on already. So it's got to do with, the shelf life. It's got to do with the logistics, the cost of getting in samples, which is sometimes even a non-starter for some. And I think just with regards to African products, I just haven't actually, we've sourced some products locally, specifically baobab, moringa, and mesquite powder, but always looking to get more locally sourced products if they're of the same quality. Mesquite was a product that we used to originally get in from Peru. And, once there was someone actually certified organic here, we switched very quickly. So that's often a factor. The products I think we would be most interested in, to try and find from people would be African sourced cacao, always good. That's our main seller, as well as hemp products. So hemp powder, hemp seeds, hemp oil, CBD. We do manufacturing also with those products. So those would probably be our most, the ones that we're trying to source the most. Even looking at coffee products, we've been trying to source a couple of things from Africa, and also looking at creating ranges which we can then export out of the country. So we've got some export channels in place, and we're feeling a lot of demand for African products like what Laura's doing. So I'm sure she's had some experience with that too. Yeah, I think that's the main issues. I think if anyone's got any questions, I've got a couple more notes. Other issues often on tariff rulings, or the challenges that we have, or the Medicinal Control Council. There's issues often with hemp when it's shelled, it's had the shell taken off, and obviously it can't be planted, but they still want to see an irradiation certificate. Because our spirulina, which is an algae, comes in a tablet form, even though it's a food, the Medicinal Control Council will sometimes stop and ask for paperwork for that. So often it's also just finding a good contact here at customs, someone who understands the product, that we're not going through the same challenges over and over again. We've got there with the current products we've got, but anytime there's something new with, where someone doesn't know what the product is, especially at customs, then we run into issues. Yep. So I think that's it.
Super, thanks, Helen. I think you touching again on like some similar subjects, but also some specifics. And I think what came through for me was also around the regulation and how specific those can be, depending on what the product is and what form it comes in. And then also you brought in the topic of samples, which is something which hadn't been raised yet. And which I know is often an issue for exporters, and who pays for it, and what quantities, and how do you move samples. So it really is an area where we see often there are some issues. Maybe just a quick question before I move to Ruan around irradiation. When it comes to honey, I know that there are some specific regulations around irradiation in South Africa. Do you import honey from anywhere, and how do you deal with those regulations if you do?
No, so we don't import honey. The main products that we're importing generally are, high nutrition. Obviously honey is, but dried products. So we're trying to do, longer shelf life, so 18 to 24 months on dried powders, which probably makes up the bulk of our offering. And then we have some berries, but it won't be just standard berries. They'll be the ones which have a higher nutritional profile. So goji berries, golden berries, which are also gooseberries, and camu berry, which comes from Peru, which has a very high vitamin C. So usually with the berries, we look for less of a shelf life, but then there's some also stringent regulations with regards to the grading and the and the quality of the products as well.
Okay, thanks, Helen.
But not honey, unfortunately.
Okay, thanks. So just it was an area of interest because I think honey is obviously something where there is demand, but where some of the import requirements are quite tough. All right, I think we can move to Ruan now. Ruan's coming at this discussion from quite a different perspective, having worked for nearly 2 decades in logistics, and we've heard about waiting times at borders and documents and how important all of this is. So Ruan, maybe if you could just introduce yourself and King Cargo, and maybe give us a few nuggets in terms of your experience about bringing products into South Africa and some of the typical issues that importers and exporters face in terms of meeting the requirements at the border. Thanks.
Thank you, Francis. Thank you for having me. I'm the Managing Director of King Cargo Projects. As Francis said, I've been in the industry for 17 years. I started the company in 2019. I made the leap of faith to start my own thing. I've got a passion for logistics, and obviously I look forward to assisting with any advice or questions. I think this discussion has been, I think the starting point for this is obviously the sample part. I know there's a lot of challenges around that. obviously, it differs from product to product. There's certain regulations which I'll touch base on now. But I think the starting point would be samples. The most cost-effective way to send the samples would be by courier company. A normal logistics agent or freight forwarder as us, we can handle that as well. But due to the courier companies, DHL, UPS, FedEx, these companies, when it comes to small packages, they pretty much dominate the market. As soon as it gets to a specific weight of, let's say, 25 kilograms or 30 kilograms, it becomes a bit more competitive for us to get involved with that. But yeah, I think the sample-wise, courier would be your best option, like I said, up to a certain weight. It's also, I think, one of the issues that a lot of the potential importers or exporters have is as soon as they receive a inquiry, I think it's important to do your homework, because you need to be registered with customs as an exporter or importer. I think a lot of the people decide they want to import a certain product, and the container lands in Durban Port or Cape Town Port, and then they told that they have to register with SARS as an importer. That's often the challenges that most of the people face. For these guys that are registered and have done the imports and exports, I think they're well aware of what the risks are. Next topic besides the samples would be the documentation. I think, adding to the discussion that Mario had earlier, I think it's very important to see to it that you've got the right documentation, because with customs, you get your standard documents like a commercial invoice, your packing list, which is your standard documents. Like I said, it depends on the origin or the destination where you are shipping to. Different countries would require different documentation. Typically, a certificate of origin is at times required. When it comes to food products, you get the certificate of analysis, traceability certificate, certificate of acceptability, and in some cases they would ask for a list of ingredients or pictures of the labels, which is important. Testing reports, and at times hygiene or food safety premises certification. So if you have all of that in place, you're not really done as yet, because if the good lands and you start the customs clearance, there could be some of the items that requires permits. It could be anything from a letter of authority or LOA at the NRCS to import permits from the Department of Agriculture, phytosanitary certificates. But like I said, it depends on the product. So once you've supplied those permits, in some cases, you get these random stops with customs where they have specific government authorities that may stop the shipment for inspection. Typically SARS, but you also get the border police when it comes to food items. Port Health might stop them. The Department of Agriculture might require an inspection to be done as well. And yeah, I think an important thing as well, besides the customs clearance, is also your Incoterms, what your terms are with your buyer or your seller. The Incoterms, it's a widely used term of sale. It just basically specifies who is responsible for paying and managing the shipment up to a certain point, who's going to pay the insurance, documentation, the customs clearance. All comes down to that. I think a lot of people have understanding that the goods would only be shipped to a certain port, but then it comes to the port charges. who pays for that? If you've got a FOB shipment, as an example, you need to deliver up to the port next to the vessel. As soon as it's loaded onto the vessel, the Incoterms change, and then you're responsible for other charges. So that's basically a summary. I think to add to that, we do a lot of sea freight, a lot of air freight, and road freight cross-border, which is something we not always get involved in, but we can handle that as well. I think the challenges in Africa is delays at the border posts. Corruption is something I have to add as well, because there have been some cases with us in the past where we've had some issues with that. But I think you just need to do your planning very well, and also your routing. If you've got a reliable logistics partner or freight forwarder, best would be just to do your homework and see exactly what the charges are, if there's any hidden costs, and what your responsibilities are. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Ruan, thank you. Sure. If I wasn't working for the USA Trade Hub, I would say maybe if you don't have nerves of steel, importing and exporting might not be everyone's cup of tea. That's quite a list of things to be aware of. But I think that's the reality. And I think until you actually go through the process of shipping something or sending something, you don't understand all those intricacies, and it seems like this endless list of things that could go wrong. And I think that's really the purpose of today, is to say, you know, there are all these potential pitfalls that you need to be aware of, and to be really educated, to create contingencies, to work with specialists, to know what they're doing. Don't try and do everything yourself from the first moment, because it's going to be potentially very risky if you do. So maybe just to mention that we've had a couple of sessions around the Incoterms. So if anyone's unfamiliar with that and you want to know more, there is a recording and there is an export guide on our website that talks to Incoterms specifically. So please go and look at satsihub.com/resources if you're unfamiliar with that. I wanted to just hone in a bit more on the samples. You spoke about the list of ingredients and about some of the requirements that would be needed for a full shipment. If you're sending a sample, are you doing the same thing regardless of the fact that it's a tiny volume of or quantity of good that you're sending through? Is it what would distinguish the documentation and the procedure, aside from the fact that you typically use a courier because it's tiny volumes?
Yeah, it's tough to say, Francis. I think typically a lot of the people import that as personal effects, which is a slight loophole in the system. But obviously you need to be registered with customs to import. If you're importing samples one every couple of months, it's one thing. But if you're importing samples every second week, or you start importing examples or samples which is 50 or 100 kilograms, it raises some eyebrows as well. But yeah, it's more or less the same procedure. The courier company would raise the customs clearance. I think typically with the Weibull or the, you're obviously going to require a invoice packing list when sending this to state exactly what products are in there. And because it's samples, you can't specify a specific value. So you need to add that to your invoice, that it samples only value for customs purposes. Just to state that, I think it's very important. And it also comes down to the quantity, how big this is. If you, let's say, importing tea or exporting tea as a sample to a potential buyer, rather than sending one large box, just do a small box as a sample, because I think it will minimize the risk. And yeah, like I said, it also depends on the product, and it also depends on the destination. or the origin where you're importing or exporting from.
Okay, thanks, Ruan. I think something which you're highlighting is that if you are sending a sample through a courier, they're going to deal with quite a bit of the admin that if you were sending a truckload of stuff, you would have to deal with, or your freight forwarder or clearing agent would have to handle. And from my experience, it's really useful to have somebody that knows what to do at a border to reduce that time and to make sure that that VAT payment gets made quickly and to just handle that whole process. So thank you. I think that's really helpful. I don't see too many questions in the chat. I don't know if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. I do see a few pictures around different products and different questions around what quantity of pomegranates would you like, Lara? Some information on some coffee that's available in different packs and sizes, and then also questions around baobab powder and herbal tea. So I think those are quite specific kind of connections, and I think between RIX and the USA Trade Hub and the Catalyze team, we can help to connect those dots. But are there any questions, from the floor? If not, I will ask our panelists if anyone would like to react to anything that you've heard from the other speakers, and if there's anything that kind of stood out for you in terms of what you heard following your opening remarks. We've only got a few more minutes, so. I see you unmuted, Kellen.
I unmuted. I was just going to echo. I did not mention obviously, but Ruan had about the importance of the Incoterms and understanding where your where your liability lies. So yeah, that's definitely something. I mean, for the farmers and suppliers to be aware of. You know, that's something that's caught us also initially, but yeah. So I'd just like to echo that. It is extremely important.
Thanks, Helen. All right. I don't see any questions from anyone, but my sort of takeaway from all of this is really that if you're importing or exporting, it's what will be crucial is to really try and understand all of these elements and to try and create buffers and plan B's and C's. Considering that not all of it's in your control, that time that the truck might spend at the border, the cash flow impact that might have, something that might go wrong with a sample or with the shipment that could affect your just-in-time manufacturing. It seems to me as if there's constant plan B, C, and D, and that if you're very thin in terms of where you stand, that exporting and importing would be a very difficult step to make. Also, I think the other thing that really stood out for me in this discussion is trust, and really relationships and getting to know one another and understanding each other's businesses, being in regular communication, being responsive. These are things that we see all the time when we're facilitating and working with different partners. If something goes wrong, no news isn't good news. You know, I think it's always good to let people know if there's a challenge rather than keep quiet and try and solve it without communicating. So yeah, I think just adding on to what you've already generously shared, that would be something which I've observed in my role. And with that, a huge thank you to Lara, Ruan, Yaku, and Kellen for sharing your experiences. They're invaluable. And back to you, Rex. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for that. Yeah, some really good insight there from different people. And the reason we put this panel together is to give you some different insights into where people are coming from. So with Yaku coming from Africa and with their struggles to get products into the market, with someone like Lara who's looking for African products all the time, but obviously struggling to get those from the region, to someone like Ruan who can help us with the expertise of actually getting the products in, and Kellen, someone who can actually help get those products in larger amounts because he's going to get more demand from multiple suppliers, manufacturers, retailers, buyers, etc. So yeah, very, very insightful stuff. So thank you very much for that. We're going to move on now to the final part of, or not very final part, we do have a little chat from Kaz at the end about stuff that's going on with USAID, but the next part is a case study on 2 companies that are set up a deal end of last year. Taneta Investments, who, as mentioned before, are a marula oil producer, and Hey Gorgeous, who are a cosmetic manufacturer in South Africa. These are 2 companies that are not very different to Manalis and Condor in that they are much smaller companies. They are fast developing different types of products and come with a whole lot of other struggles. So not as easier as opportunity as the cashew nuts, where there was a friend involved or someone, a common acquaintance that helped to reference something. This was something that allowed us, what was a little bit more intricate and building trust with more documentation and insight. And I'd like to just call on Nampa from Taneta and Phoebe from Hey Gorgeous, if you can put your cameras and mics on and join us on the screen.
Okay, I think you've got, oh, there it is. Hold on.
Lovely.
Okay, I'm there. Can you see me?
So we'll introduce you first, Phoebe. As mentioned, you're from Hey Gorgeous, with a few shops around South Africa and manufacture product locally and always looking to use some local products. I'll hand it on to you to do a proper introduction of yourself.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for having me. I'm so sorry I missed such a lot of it. I caught the last 15, 20 minutes and it was absolutely riveting. So sorry guys, can we start again from the very beginning? Okay, so very briefly, okay, as Rex says, we're a skincare manufacturer. We're based in Cape Town. We started a little over a decade ago, and we are primarily a natural organic skincare company. That said, okay, I think this is really important to say that while we champion green and clean products, I am not opposed to, and we don't think it's the only way to go. Do you know what I mean? Okay, we look for good ingredients, and particularly African based, because we are an African country and we really want to support our continent. We really want to support like local businesses who are going through the same endeavors that we are. And it's really nice to see that, you know, the whole kind of international K-beauty, Japanese beauty, and the rest of it is now becoming second place. Everybody wants to come to the birth of Africa, and they love the quality of the ingredients that we've got. So it's a really exciting market to be in, but tricky from an import and export point of view, particularly if you don't have deep pockets. Okay, so that's us in a nutshell.
Lovely, thanks, Phoebe. And then Taneta, Nampa, can you give us some insight into what you guys do before we start the questions?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nampa from Taneta Investment. We process marula kernels into marula oil that we retail as a skin, face oil, hair oil, but we also supply it in bulk to cosmetic manufacturers, of course, like Hey Gorgeous and other customers in the food industry. Our oil is organic certified. So far, we have exported to obviously South Africa, the USA, Spain, and Germany, and we are looking forward to growing, you know, our brand.
Awesome, thanks Nampa for that information. So just I'm just gonna put it onto here. Let's go. So look, as discussed the other day between the two of you, you had no idea who each other were to start this process off of buying. It was, Phoebe, it was a leap of faith from your side to say, well, we want to look at buying product from somewhere else and don't get it through the usual channels of distributors in South Africa. From your side, I mean, what was that deciding factor for you to try a new supplier or make that step into working with Nampa?
It's not that we hadn't actually looked at over, like African suppliers as such, without going through our normal distribution channel. But it's difficult, and it's definitely, I know that we touched on this, or I heard you touch on it a little earlier. It's down to faith, and down to trust. You can't just, or you're going to randomly just do a Google search and hope you're going to get some good quality products. So if it wasn't for your introduction, I don't think we would have actually done that. And I really liked it because I think sometimes you actually need that intermediary. You need somebody to say to you, okay, this is what it is. Because here's another thing, and I was thinking about this subsequent to our conversation. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? And I didn't know that, like now that I've been exposed to Nimpa's quality of product, okay, I'm now starting to consider other formulations, other things that I could possibly do with it. Whereas before I would get 50 liters from a local supplier, and I know that 50 liters I would need to calibrate for X, Y, and Z. But because her stuff is brilliant, and because it was such an easy thing to get from her, okay, it's definitely something that it kind of opens my horizons. So in brief, I like the idea that there is an intermediary, like a connection, somebody who can introduce you to people, because otherwise, how do you know?
Great. And Nampa, from your side, I mean, what were the stepping stones into making this deal go through? I mean, what did you have to need to put in place, and what was required from Freebie from your side to make sure that this moved along smoothly?
From our side, agreeing with what Phoebe said about being connected by Catalyze, it was very, very key, because like the first initial awkward conversation has already taken place during the first meeting. But, for us, it was clear from the beginning that we were not just looking for a sale, we were looking for a partner. So we put in a lot of effort in following up, ensuring that we answer questions, communicating issues, asking questions. We're also mindful that, we are in Africa, and as much as we love the continent, we know it is associated with scams and, unauthentic, people who are selling fake goods. So what we put in place, to answer your question, Rex, is that we communicate in such a way that we are establishing the relationship. We want to demonstrate that we can be trusted. And so that for us, was very important. Also sharing information, for example, like, our organic certificate, we send the copy, certificate of analysis, doing work, for example, to find out what is the cheapest shipping cost, to make sure that, to also demonstrate to Phoebe that we are not just there to rip her off, we are also there for her interest. So I think it is building that relationship that was important to us, and that's what we put in place.
Yeah, definitely. I have to, everything that you said, I 100% concur, because you did. I loved our open lines of communication. Eventually, because Nampa knows that my day is chaotic. Okay, she knows that she's going to wait 17 hours for a response from an email. Okay, so we reverted to WhatsApps, and I love that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's for everybody, but for our company, it worked. And I love the fact that she was open enough to be able to say, okay, I'm happy to talk to you this way. So that communication, that way of making sure that we are able to talk to each other openly, and the fact that she understands that, like, it's scary for a buyer, especially in Africa, to say, okay, look, I'm going to commit to it. It doesn't matter if it's 10,000 Rand or 100,000 Rand or $1 million, it's still money. Okay, and I love the fact that she got it. She was hell of a supportive, and there's no question about the fact that I would definitely use you again. Not only because your quality of ingredient is great, but it's a joy. It's a joy meeting with you and doing business with you. If there were other people like you, we would definitely do a lot more.
So I mean, what you're saying is you've got to like the person that you're going to deal with at the end of the day. That's so important.
Come on, why would you like? I mean, I'm sure if you didn't like me, okay, like, why would you know? I let's put that on the top of my list. If I don't like you, I can't buy from you.
I mean, I think we see that quite often, and it's not with even the first case study. We could tell from the beginning with Mario and Gonzalo as well that they had a connection, and there was a good communication relationship from that very first meeting, and it was very much the same with yourself, Phoebe and Nampa, that there was an interest in something sparked with that, and that is often how we notice where the next deal is going to come from. So that was very, very interesting for us as well. But I think where we do struggle with certain South African buyers is that hesitancy from buying from Africa. And I think, Nampa, I mean, from your end, is this something that you've experienced quite a lot with trying to enter to the South African market? Have you come across this quite a lot?
You know, we haven't been in a business for decades, but for the past 3-4 years where we try to go into the South African market, we see a lot of hesitation, a lot of trust issues between, you know, us, you know, Africans buying from each other. So I want to say there's a lot of hesitation, but I think as time goes, because I see, if looking at last year, for example, when we were part of the Engage Trade Africa, you know, first group, things have changed a little bit. I think, and it's fair to say hesitation is expected, but I want to say that there is a lot of trust issues, and again, reiterating the importance of having you know, links, people like Catalyze who are connecting people to make sure that the companies that people are dealing with are authentic, and they are not just there to scam and rip them off.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's what we often find, it's not always us, it's someone like USA Trade Hub who, you know, underwrite this this trust in the process, that there's even someone higher than the people that are introducing, like ourselves, that there's a possibility that maybe they could help and get involved in some way, or just be there to kind of give you reassurance that this is a reputable company. They are country reps in the different markets. They can go and source this. And a lot of the buyers that we've spoken to in the last few months and years have been saying that, and not just South African buyers, but we're working with US and Canada and European buyers. We've got buyers in Singapore at the moment as well. And they, you know, as soon as you say there's some kind of a authority involved, a governmental agency involved, they sort of seem a little bit more interested in actually taking this on and opening up. Phoebe, from your side, I mean, are you importing quite a lot of stock from other parts of the world at the moment?
I do. My jars I import from China. So I do a lot of Eastern import. And in the beginning, it scared the bejesus out of me because it is scary. But the more I do it, the better I get. But what I do like is, you know, it's interesting because you made mention of this kind of trade assurance. One of the things that I like the most is that if I buy from Alibaba platform, for argument's sake, it gives me that trade assurance that if I don't like it, even when it arrives, okay, I'm sure you all know how it works, but just in case. Okay, so let's say I order X, right? I pay for X gets delivered. I have a week to examine X. If I'm not happy with X, I let the trade assurance people know, and my money is 100% guaranteed. You know what I mean? And I kind of, whether or not, okay, because I've never had an issue with them. I must say they're so jacked up now, but in the back of my mind, it's peace of mind for me. So I'll spend easily R250,000 on an online website from China and not bulk, because I know that it's going to be done. You know what I mean? So perhaps something on it with a trade organization that is prepared to commit to it. You know, we all, like, as an importer or as an exporter, we sign up to it and we say, okay, this is what it is. Okay, I'm prepared. I'll put my money behind me getting you the right products at the right time. you know, and if it doesn't, okay, you've got a guarantee to get it back. That would work for me. I wouldn't think twice about it.
Okay.
And then on the subject of customs, oh my God. Okay, can they just be a little kinder to businesses that are trying to make some money? I sent an export to our UK operation. It's one of 26 billion that I've actually sent, and it was stopped because they think, and it was a 200,000 Rand order, and it was stopped at customs Joburg because they used a scanner going back to 1967 or something, and apparently I was exporting drugs. So what they did was they took my entire order to some rando police station in Joburg, and that's it, gone and gone. But the cop who's dealing with it did actually say to me, oh no, sorry, we made a mistake with the scanner. The products are fine, but they opened every single one of the products. And there's what recourse do I have? Do you know what I mean? Okay, so even though I used a freight forwarder, at the end of the day, it's my fault. Do you know what I mean? So if you have any customs influence with a big stick, can you use it?
You all want one of those. So yeah, I mean, Nampa, from your end, I mean, what do you think you could do better to make South Africans buy from you? I know we've spoken about this before, and you've got some tricks up your sleeve about getting samples cheaper to people and other ways, but have you got any insight for everyone here of what can be done better, how you can build more trust and interest in South African buyers into Africa?
What I can say is, I think communication is, you know, one of the key tools that we can use to make sure that we, even if we are connected via organizations like Catalyze, to continue the relationship by communicating effectively, by sending information. For example, like, you know, now what I do as part of what we have learned is with every, you know, inquiry, I'll send a copy of the organic certificate with the link where they can verify if this certificate is genuine, technical data sheets, certificate of analysis, and so on. But I think also what can help is to use references. Like, you know, if now I'm talking to a South African buyer, because of the relationship we have with Hey Gorgeous, I can say, you can also speak to, you know, this person, Phoebe at Hey Gorgeous. She might be, you know, able to give you more information. So I think using reference for me will be a big key for me, and I'm sure for other people. So I think, yeah, communication, using reference. When I'm talking to new potential clients now, I tend to use examples. For example, you know, I mentioned that we have shipped to other countries, so I can say, yeah, this is how we dealt with that issue when we were working with our Spanish clients. So then people can see more that you have experience, and you know, you are not just, you know, talking. So I think, yeah, those will be my key factors to use moving forward, and I'm sure it will help other people as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Nampa. And then Phoebe, from your end, what other products are you looking for?
I would definitely look for oils. Okay, any of the, you know, the kind of African oils, like in terms of baobab, moringa, you know, anything that is home based. And I'm quite honestly, I'm open to all sorts. So if there's something that somebody goes, oh, you know what, I mean, have you considered this? Okay, let's look at it, because there's probably an alternative that we're using as well as, you know. And I heard you touch on, somebody mentioned baobab powder. Well, you know what we do, we infuse baobab powder into one of our products anyway, you know what I mean, and I buy it locally. So I would be open to, if you've got a good African ingredient that can transpose into a skincare product, then I would definitely be open to looking at it. So by all means, just pop me a mail, let me know what you've got, and I would definitely consider.
And those products that you're getting at the moment that you're looking for, you're buying from a South African distributor? Mainly.
I'm buying from a South African distributor, yeah.
So
yeah, and
But now everybody knows Phoebe's very open to working directly with some local producers and manufacturers in Africa. So please give her a shout. I think I know there were some issues in certain regions, and I know you said it was one of the things you told me, it was quite easy to do business with Nampa, but are there certain things like payments or documents and stuff that tripped you up in the past?
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on that, okay, because you introduced us to a fantastic company that I really wanted to do business with, Zambian based, but it's payments are problematic. And it's a hell of a thing, because I tried to do it with Nampa. It was fine because it was Namibia, and obviously because of our banking connections, that was quick and easy, and that was absolutely perfect. However, when I tried to do the Zambian one, there was not a cat in hell's chance I could do it online, definitely not from my business account, without going to, I mean, I don't know what they thought I was going to do, was smuggling out all sorts of South Africans for their life in France, okay, or I needed to go into the bank. And while that's great, and I'm happy to do that, do you really want to have to go clutching 10 pieces of paper and an invoice, and then you have to, oh no. So if there was a way that we could figure out an easier payment way to be able to do that. And interestingly, it was a European company that I just bought from the other day, and they use Stripe. Okay. And they sent me a link, payment thing on my card, off it went, and it was a business transaction. And I'm sure we must be able to do the same thing. So maybe that's something that we could actually look at from a perspective, because I'm going to sign up for my company for my international purchase for customers that want to buy from me, who don't want to necessarily go through this way.
Okay, yeah, that's great insight. So easy payment solutions and easy communication is key for someone buying from you. And just to finish off as well, I mean, key conversations were, and good insight for the exporters here is, we didn't delve into it, but someone like Phoebe is running a fast developing small company that's got multiple stores. Phoebe doesn't have the time to walk into banks, do a whole lot of paperwork, chase that stuff. She's buying loads of products. She's got loads of payments coming in. She's got products sending out to companies. So making your process as easy as possible for someone like that is key. And it much the same goes for other stuff that has gone out, like the cashew products that were delivered to the door of that buyer, you know, and payment terms were made extremely easy. That kind of trust with a supplier and manufacturer is so important in the process, to make sure that you are sending the product to the company and getting it there. And my father was did a lot of exports. He was a belt manufacturer, and I know his advice to me always was, you never make money off your first order. Just be aware, it might be something that costs you a little bit of money even, and it's one of those things that you have to bite in the beginning. It's your second, third, and your future orders that are going to make you your money. Just make sure your product gets there, it arrives on time, there's no hiccups, and it's very simple for the buyer. And if you can get that right, they'll be happy with you and they'll order more. So that's some advice from my side. It's much the same with the programs that I do. All my programs, they have to work very well from the beginning. Otherwise, my partners and funders are not going to do that with me. But thank you very much, Nampa and Phoebe, for joining us today. Looking forward to seeing more business between you guys as well, which I know is going to be coming.
Yep, definitely.
Thank you.
Excited about these new companies we're dealing with, and please, do reach out to Phoebe as well if there's any manufacturers on here. She's looking for products. Phoebe, I think you've got a LinkedIn account and a Facebook account, so you can contact her there. If you aren't able to contact Phoebe, you can always give us a shout directly. Message myself, Rex at catalyze.co.za. And then similarly, if there are any buyers out there that are looking for marula oils, please give Nampa a shout. She's got an amazing oil. I think she's got about a ton of organic oil ready for you guys at the moment, and really keen to get it out to some more manufacturers as well in the South African market and internationally. So thanks guys very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Take care and talk to you soon, Nampo.
See you, Phoebe.
Great. So we're rounding up to, we don't have any Q&As, but Kos, I think we're going to steam on with you and just a little bit of insight from your side. And please, if you could come onto camera and give some insight into what else the USAID are doing. Kos, are you able to? Cindy, please. I think Kos is co-host. Kos, can you get able to get your camera on and your mic on? All right. Sorry, Dorina. Oh, there we go. Kos is coming on. Hi, Kos.
Sorry, Rex. It's George, not Kos.
George, how's it? Is Kos with you? We're expecting to round up this.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Kos has just stepped away.
Okay.
So I will have to fill in.
Okay.
In his absence.
Great.
So you didn't quite brief me on what was supposed to happen, but I take it that this is where we just try and look at what has happened and what is going to happen going forward. So starting with how we can access the video that was or the recording from this webinar. If we could just go back on the slides so that I can talk to where that can be found. Yes, there we are. One slide below. So all the activities that we get involved in, we actually end up with the recordings and any other information related to that on our website as indicated there, the satihub.com website. So you can actually visit that website and you'll be able to find information on or access the videos and presentations from this webinar and any other. So please feel free to visit that website. If you run into any problems, please contact the USA Trade Up team in each country. We do have presence in all the 9 countries we work in, and the list is here. Next slide, please. For the list of our colleagues. Now the next one. Yes, so that's the list of contacts or our representatives, USA Trade Up representatives in each country. Please feel free to reach out to them if you have any questions on this website or on this event or any of the activities that the USA Trade Up is involved in. And that said, we do have a number of activities or upcoming activities. On the 3rd of June, we do have an actioning and follow-up for return on investment webinar. And I'll not go through all those webinars there, but those are some of the events that are coming up in the next few weeks. In fact, we're looking at between now and end of June. Please feel free to attend these events. I think what I need to highlight is here is the June 12 to 14 event, which is the Summer Fence Food Show, which will be held in New York. And we are actually taking 40 companies from the region, from the 9 countries we work in. We are supporting those companies to exhibit at the Summer Fence Food Show. For those that are exhibiting or would want to know more, about that event in terms of preparations. We do have an event, a webinar coming up just in the next 10 minutes or so, where we are actually going to be taking through the participants in terms of what to expect, and they can then ask. You can then ask questions on that particular event. The other big one is the AGOA Exporters Awards for South Africa, which is going to be held on the 29th of June. We will be circulating or sending out invitations to everyone so that you can participate.
George, will that be online or it will be in person?
We're going to have it as a hybrid. As always, I mean, I think these days it is quite common that there are some people who might want to be there. Ideally, would want people to attend, but to cater for those that might not be able to make it, we will have it as a hybrid event.
And whereabout in South Africa will that happen?
We are hoping that this will be in Pretoria. We haven't finalized the details yet, but it's definitely going to be in Pretoria somewhere. We will be sharing the details pretty soon on that.
Great.
Okay, and if you could just go up to the next slide, the one before this one. Okay, we've already talked about that. So before I conclude, I would like to just take this opportunity to thank everyone, starting with the participants, everyone here, and also those that contributed during this important event. I hope that we found it worth our while, and let's continue to engage as we go forward. Thank you very much. Back to you, Rex.
Thank you very much, George, for that. And thank you to everyone who joined today. Yeah, very insightful, and all our speakers, great insight. What we can see happening at the moment is that there's a lot of people that are wanting to buy product from Africa, and people are excited about it, but people are still a little hesitant. So our job is to demystify that, make the right connections, get the right programs and platforms in place at the moment. A lot of payment platforms need to be put in place. We're finding them, we're finding solutions for these. So please, if you've got issues with that kind of stuff, please get in contact with us. We're always keen to help. We love seeing product being sold out of Africa to everywhere in the country, but from Africa to South Africa, from Africa and South Africa to other parts of the world as well. That's been our game for the last 10 years, and with Catalyze, with projects all over the world. And we're super excited about this. We know that there's a lot of issues with getting products from other parts of the world at the moment, especially materials from Asia, with massive container issues in those regions as well, and shipping issues. Other big markets in the world that there's conflict in at the moment, and certain products not flowing as much as it used to out of those regions. So there's a huge opportunity for Africa at the moment. And we're very excited, not just in the manufactured product and actual physical product space, but we're seeing a lot in the technology space as well, where big American companies are seeing that there's amazing creativity and projects coming out of Africa. It makes us so excited to see when those projects land and those opportunities land. So yeah, very, very passionate about this space, and lovely to see so many people joining. And we're looking forward to Engage Trade Africa, with some great meetings have already started for this year's project. We've got a lot of retailers on board this time, as well as distributors. And that's very exciting. There's this new interest in saying, hey, can we source something from somewhere else? We're having troubles getting products from somewhere, but now we can maybe source it from Africa. Is there somewhere in Africa that we can source from? Is there a reliable person in between that can maybe vet those people and support the opportunity if it comes through? And we like filling those shoes, but we like it even more when we've got someone like US Trade that can support us in that market. There's country reps in those markets that can go out and get information for you. So don't feel shy, communicate, ask questions, get involved, and let's get more business coming between Africa and South Africa, and making the continent even stronger. So thank you everyone today. We're very happy for you to join us and excited for you guys to be here. So we'll leave you with that for now, and looking forward to contacting and communicating with you all directly over the next few days. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, Rex.